Hello, my happy crafters. Oh, you know what? I gotta change. I'm so funny. I'm like, oh, I noticed something wrong. Let's change this. You won't notice a difference, but I do. All right. Hey guys, I'm so glad to be with you today. It is December 23rd and our last running with scissors for the year. Oh, but we'll be back next year, next first Thursday of January. We will be back with bells on, ready to rock and roll with a whole new year of running with scissors. It hasn't been dangerous yet. We've been having lots of fun running recklessly. So glad to see so many of you joining in today. And a few of you popped in with messages earlier. I know you're overseas and you're getting ready for the holidays. So, time to sign off social media for the year and take a little rest and relaxation and be with family, right? So, we are going to pop right into our project very quickly today because we're going to be putting together everything that we created last week as a part of our mini heart mixed media tag. And it's so much fun. It'll start to brighten up your space. Now that we're into winter and we've had our longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, we are starting to already think about, oh, spring will be here before we know it. So, of course, like thinking about February and Valentine's Day and all those fun things, it's really cool to start working on some of those kinds of projects, right? My condolences to those down in the Southern Hemisphere who just had their longest day and will be moving into shortest days. Winter will be there before you know it again, right? Anyway, no announcements today. I didn't actually update the slide. Next month, we are going to be doing heart-based projects. So pull out all of your heart stuff, whether that's stamps or dies. We're going to be doing all sorts of fun things with hearts. They are not necessarily Valentine's. So it's just going to be ways to use hearts other than Valentine's. And I've got the first two projects done. They're really great. So we're going to have some fun with that. We're going to pull in some techniques that I've been sharing on Technique Tuesdays. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy them. They're tons of fun projects. All right. Thank you to everyone who has donated this year with the tip jar. I totally appreciate it. If you would like to leave a small token of your appreciation with a tip, go ahead and click on that link in the description below or over in the comments, and that will take you over to PayPal. You can drop me a few bucks for a cup of coffee. I appreciate everyone who has done that this year and in the last week. Thank you to Anne for sending me a little tip. I got it today. She knows what I'm talking about, and I'm so glad to see you online with us tonight, Anne. So thank you. All right, so today, yes, we're going to be using this monster. This is a Crop-A-Dile, if you've ever seen one. I'm going to show you how to use this. I almost got rid of it because I thought, oh, I don't know if I'll ever do eyelets again. Well, guess what? Eyelets are back in fashion. So I'm glad I didn't get rid of it because this is a little bit of an investment. I think this is like a $30 tool. And it does holes. And I like that the way that it does holes is it goes into really thick mediums, which is great. So like if you've got heavy chipboard or something like that, this will cut through that, or even plastic and things like that, which is fantastic. And then of course you use this piece down here to put together your eyelets. So I'm going to show you how to use this tonight if you've never used one before. But of course this is the star of our show, our beautiful mixed media tag. We have all the pieces put together from last week. So if you did that, I'm so excited. Can't wait to see what your finished project is going to look like. So please do share it out on social media. Tag me at Nicole Watt Creates. I want to see what you guys create. Okay. But this is what our finished project is going to look like mostly after we are done tonight. So let me set this aside. We'll get started. Let's see. Sue says she has a pink handled one. Yeah, exactly. That's why I kept mine too, Sue. Mine is black because it's originally from Stampin' Up. And so they've got their logo on the inside of here. And so they had it custom with black. I really like it. I'm sure their original one from Crop-A-Dile is actually probably pink. All right, so we're going to start off. We've got our chipboard and our little circle here. And I had to kind of think about like how we could best do this so that we didn't have things like drying, like we weren't waiting too long on dry time for things. Okay, so I've got all sorts of little bits and bobs here. I've got all of our hearts from last time, which we're going to use, I think, right away. So all of our hearts, including this one here. So this is the one that we put the embossing paste on. And as you can see, it's dry on here and it's fabulous. Let me switch down to my hands. Here we go. And then I've got all sorts of other little bits and bobs. Bits and bobs in my little project envelope. All right, so we've got all of our hearts. Everything that we did up last week is all here. All the things. All right, and then I pulled out the metallic pieces that I'm going to use. And one of these guys, and there's this other little heart here. Okay, so let me just show you. So on the original here, I used metallic elements here, here, and here. All right, but because this Finnabair set, it comes with 10 pieces, but all 10 pieces are different. So of course, like I said, if you don't have these, or if you've got other things that you can use instead, buttons would work really great. They don't even have to be hearts. But see, these are the leftover pieces. They're really kind of big that I could have used. But instead I picked these guys out here. So some of them were like rusted and some of them were just metal. But these are leftovers. So this is Finnabair Mechanical Hearts. And those are listed down in the description below. So I used 3 of them for the first one. We'll use 3 of them tonight. And then the other thing is these Gumdrop Hearts from Tim Holtz. They start off white. Okay, so they're just a beautiful, clear, shimmery type gumdrop looking thing. And the cool thing that I did with this one is I put some Versamark on it. All right, and then I dipped it in Distress Embossing Glaze and then heated it up. Okay, so let me show you close up what that looks like. All right, so it's got clear and it's got a little bit of pink around it. You don't have to do it. You can leave them plain. That works too. But I did 2 because I wasn't sure how many I was going to use, and I only used 1. So I had the other one already done up. All right, so that's how you're going to do that, if you do it. All right, so let's get started with our assembly. We've got all this stuff here. I'm going to just kind of push that out of the way for a moment. We're going to start with our chipboard here, and actually I'm going to back up just a hair so you can get an even better, there we go, view of everything. I've got clips too, because we might need these to hold things in place. That always happens. Okay, so here is my beautiful piece of chipboard. It doesn't matter which side you use. And here is our finished piece from last week. This is the Pollock technique that we did, and then we put some embossing paste in. This is the Picket Fence silver embossing glaze. It's fabulous. Put that on there, and it's just gorgeous. I love the way this looks, so nice and crisp on here. Okay, so we're going to cut this up. Easiest way to do this is to put this on here and then trim it. Okay, so this little center hole I'm not going to worry about at the moment. I'm going to just use my Tombow glue for this, and I'm going to be pretty generous with it. I'm not getting a whole lot in a single place, but I am going all over with it because we want this to stay in place. All right. And there's really not a whole lot of choice on this. I am going to kind of work it so that it hits just at the top here. So that way this is kind of out of the way for me. All right, but just make sure that it's covered the whole thing. And it's going to stick pretty quick because the chipboard is paper, right? And this is paper and the glue is glue. So it's all just going to stick together. And I'm just flipping it over, give it a nice press. Make sure that it's all stuck on it really well. It's going to stick really fast because this is kind of porous. It just really is going to suck up all of that glue and just make it nice and sticky. All right, so I've got that on there. Good line on the top. I didn't have a lot of glue seep out the edge, which is fabulous. All right, these guys, two became one. Let me tell you, they are adhered. If you tried to pull that off now, you'd have a problem. Okay, so how are we going to cut off the edges here? This is probably a tool that you have in your craft room that you like maybe hardly ever use. A craft knife, a nice sharp X-Acto edge works really well for this. I'm just going to follow this along the edges and cut them off. You can try to cut off the whole piece, but I find it just best to take it off in sections. You totally could reuse this if you wanted to, or you can toss it. All right, so as you're going around, make sure that you're butting right up against the edge. There we go. See, I missed that little bit there. And this is a self-healing mat, so it's a perfect place, obviously, to be cutting. Ooh. Just don't cut into your chipboard like I almost did there. Right. So now you can see why you wanted to have this piece like thoroughly dry before you worked on it, because we're going to be, obviously we flipped it over, we did some cutting on it. We're going to be gluing right on it. There we go. All right. So there we go. Look, we've got a tag. You could just hang this as is. Wouldn't that be just gorgeous? All right. So there we go. All right, so we're missing the hole in the middle. So I'm just gonna cut like a little X here, just so that I know on the front where to poke through at. And I'm not too concerned about cutting this perfectly, because I am gonna put my little ring around this. All right, if you're working on your own design, like if you didn't have these particular tags and they didn't have this piece and you're not putting anything around the center here, you could just leave the hole off, and just do it solid. That would be fine too. But for this one, I'm just, now that I've got that hole cut, I can come in with my knife and just kind of cut away around the edge here. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect, because for me, this is going to get covered. If I had a hole punch this big, I would punch the hole, but I don't. Right, so that's good. There it is. Gorgeous. And we're done. Yes. All right, so that's going to go right on top. Let's work our way actually down from the top. There's a couple of things we can stick on now, and then we can just kind of set them aside to dry. All right, so from the top, we're going to zoom in just a little bit here. Okay, so I've got some hearts all done up, and this guy is going to go right around the edge here, like right around the hole. I don't want it to go over the hole, because this is still going to go over it. Right, if you want to clean this out a little bit more, because like this is totally bugging me. I happen to have this set of files. They're like jeweler's files. I actually got these from way back in the day with Stampin' Up. And I do find that they come in handy to like really clean out areas and to sand down chipboard and all those kinds of things. I wish someone would come out with a new tool set like this. I might have to look online and see if I can find a set. But this is really helpful for like cleaning out those little edges like that. And then you can also take like a bit of sandpaper and clean off your edge here too if you want. It all just depends on like how picky you want to be about it. All right, but again, this is all going to get covered now, so that makes me happier to have this inside a little cleaner. All right, so that looks good. All right, so these guys are just going to get glued on kind of like so. All right, so just like a little pair of hearts. For this, I can use Tombow because it's paper on paper. In some instances, I'll be using my On Point glue, and I just realized today this is my last bottle of On Point glue and it's almost empty. So I need to find a replacement. I don't know if I'll use On Point glue or not going forward. So if anyone has a recommendation for a glue that dries clear, but not gummy sticky like Tombow does, I'm looking for something that dries kind of hard. And I want to say, I think Barely Arts might have a glue that would work for me, but I don't know. All right, so 2 little hearts here, super cute. Paper on paper, so those should dry just like normal. And then now I can take my ring here and also put some Tombow on there. Because again, technically this is paper on paper too, because the chipboard is paper. But what I'm going to do with this is I am going to take my first binder clip and clip that down. And then if I flip this guy over, then I can just kind of let it sit there like this, and that's going to hold in place. All right, so that way it's going to stay nice and tight and it's not going to slip as we're working on some other things. All right, so I'm going to set this aside for a moment and we'll move on to another part of our project. Okay, so the next piece we're going to work on is this little element here. And this is a grouping 1, 2, 3, 4 of hearts. All right, so the first piece is that Sizzix paper from last week. And Nancy talked about this a little bit. I can't remember what we called it at the time. But basically, it's the same stuff. She let us in on the secret. It's the same stuff that you would find on the tag on your denim pants, on your jeans. And it is very resilient. It's washable. It's obviously sewable. It's very malleable. So this is really a lot of Craftex. Thank you, Nancy. This is really a lot of fun to kind of work up into a little ball here and give it some really great texture. So now this looks like it looks like a piece of foil or metal or something that's really been distressed. I love that. So this is, I mean, obviously the simplest thing that you can do with this stuff. But it looks gorgeous. I mean, look at that. And this is in their rose gold, so it's absolutely beautiful, especially in person. All right, and I'm going to take my vellum heart and we're going to match these kind of offsets together like so. Okay, so to attach these two together, we're going to use some eyelets. All right, so these are the We Are Memory Keepers wide eyelets in shades of red, although this one I still contest is brown. Supposedly it's like a dark burgundy, but I don't see it. So we're actually going to use 2 of these tonight. So let me just grab one of those and a pink one. So I don't have to put this out again. All right, so on with the Crop-A-Dile. So this guy here, 3/16. Let me see. Yes. So this side of the Crop-A-Dile is 3/16, and this is to cut the opening for your eyelet to go through. All right, so it has a 3/16 side and it has a 1/8 inch side. And so I really wasn't sure like which would work better. I mean, 3/16 is just a 1/16 of an inch more than an eighth. So if you do one or the other, it's really not going to make that big of a difference. You just might have a little bit of a harder time working it in place. All right, so I just want to hook these two together. So I'm going to put an eyelet about here. And the nice thing is this has got like a nice long throat. So in most cases, you can get it in where you need it to be. So right about there. And see, yeah, it just cuts through that like butter. I mean, it's so perfect. All right. And then you put your eyelet through. All right, so, but that's not the end of it because obviously this needs to get crimped on the back side. So that's where you've got this little doodad here. And these guys flip around depending on the size of things and what have you. And I have them set up the right way for what I need. Basically, I needed this little bit here to fit into this hole. And then this side here is going to squish it flat. So this goes into the whole side, and that side's going to squish it flat. Let's see if I can, there you go. So as I press, there we go. And it just flared that out. And now these guys are joined together forever. There is a little bit of movement in there that you can still do. So if they do happen to get a little off, you can fix that. So there you go, Crop-A-Dile. Fun, right? We're going to use it again later. So you get to see it in work again. Okay, so next thing is to pop one of these hearts on here. And this guy is the one. And it's going to go on here. All right, like so. Now, when I did this sample here, this here is glossy, right? I use the On Point glue and put it on here and then let it dry. And it becomes hard and glossy, and it's just a really gorgeous effect, right? But as we all know now, I am running low on Point glue, and it takes a little while to dry. So we're going to do just an embossing technique where we're going to just cover this with an embossing ink and do some clear embossing over it to give it the shine that we're looking for. If you want to go crazy with it, you can do a couple layers, but we really just need one on here to make these guys shiny. So let me grab my heat tool too. So either way works. There's a lot of different mediums out there you can use to give something a glossy effect. But in this case, we just take our Versamark. And this I just re-inked, and you can tell because it's like super juicy. There we go. And this you really need some tweezers for. Pop it into your embossing powder. Just let them go for a swim. All right. And you can do one of two things. Either you can hold them, or if you want to put them down like this. Oh, look, they made like little hearts in the sand. Oh my gosh. I think I need a nap. Silly jokes. Okay. So you can either hold it with your tweezers, but when you do that, you might end up getting like a little nick in it, and you might want to just do something a little different. So I take my pokey tool or paper piercing tool and just hold it down. This works really well this way too. All right. Okay, so now we have glossy hearts. So the difference with doing this with the embossing powder and doing it with the on-point glue is that, can you see the color difference? These are the same color cardstock, but when you use the embossing powder with the embossing ink, it deepens the color. And when you use the on-point glue to make it glossy, it keeps the same color. So if that difference makes a difference to you, then you know which to use. Okay. So this guy now is going to get glued onto here. Kind of like so. And he's not going to touch everywhere. I'm going to use the on-point glue for this. Whoops. There we go. So even though he's not going to touch everywhere, I'm still going to put glue all the way around, because it's easier than trying to guess where it's going to touch. And no one's going to see it anyway. All right. So let's say right about there. All right, so because this guy is so crinkly behind, right, we don't know where exactly that's going to touch, but we're going to take this little doodad here, this heart, and we're going to put it here to kind of help hold everything down. And I'm going to fill that up with a little bit of extra glue. And again, I'm going to use the on-point glue because it's metal. Fill that in with a little bit of extra. All right. And again, I'm going to take a, whoa. There we go. Grab that kind of funny. Take a binder clip. And clip these guys together. Very, very carefully. There. So that's going to help hold down the heart against the Craftex type paper, and then it's going to hold this other heart kind of in place. That needs to sit for a few minutes. So, you know, binder clips, they are a really great craft tool. Okay, next piece. We got things drying all over the place. Next piece is going to be this little trio here, the two hearts and our sentiment. And like I said, the sentiment is going to change because, again, the quote chips, this comes from Theories Quote Chips by Tim Holtz. There's only one per package. So these were some other ones that I thought, you know, would work well together. I could either do two or I could do just a single one. I really like this one, but, you know, I could do just one, or I could do like one here and then I could do another one up there. So let's do these two actually. And here's our hearts. So we're going to intertwine these two, just putting one right underneath another. So now they're intertwined. All right, and then I can put one here, and then, you know, like one there. Make it just, you know, slightly different from the original, but it works. So again, I'm going to do on-point glue because it's going to stick better to the plastic, and I only put it on the one side just to get it started on here. All right, and I'm using my mat to make sure that things are kind of square. go. That looks good. Actually, that goes almost all the way across. So, thanks, Mary, for the suggestion on the Tombow glue. I will have to look into the blue glue and see. I was thinking that that might be an option, so I will have to take a look at that. Okay, so there we go. And because I have these two pieces here, it's kind of important to make sure that they're scooched so that they're parallel to each other. That looks better. Okay, so this red heart isn't quite attached to anything yet, but it's about to be. Okay. I'm gonna have to cut these. So originally, let me just show you what goes on here. This piece here is propped up significantly with a bundle of, there you go, you can see it, this little bundle here of pink, what that looks like. So really that's just a whole bunch of cardstock folded and then covered in washi tape, so that way you don't see it. But these are too thick, so I need to cut some 1/4-inch strips, which I'm going to do, and they need to be about 2.5 inches long. Okay. All right. All right, so like watching paint dry, right? Okay, so now I have a whole bunch of random pieces here. These are all now like 3/8 of an inch, because I decided 1/4 inch was too skinny, by 2.5. So I'm going to glue a whole bunch of them together to make a shim. And I need 2 shims because I need one behind each sentiment. And then to keep them decorative, we're going to actually cover them in washi tape. So here's the 2 that I'm working on. And really how much you need is, it's kind of up to you. I guess I don't need to do that. Because some of it's driven by how much tulle ends up behind it. I find that a successful project like this is driven by little things like this, like making shims for your projects, because otherwise you lose that level of stability if you're trying to like stack things on top of each other, or they look a little bit like wonky in the end. But if you do things like add shims to stuff, then they end up a little more supported, and it's just a more stable end product, and it looks really nice in the end. Okay, so Sue wants to know, where did I get the craft text paper? So actually it's a product from Sizzix. Let me grab it while I'm moving here. Show you what it looks like. So it's called Texture Roll. It comes in a 6 by 48 inch roll, all sorts of different colors. All right, so this is by Sizzix. You can do all sorts of things with it, as Nancy showed last week. Very cool. And she just shared with us C&T Publishing. They've got books on using sheets of craft text. That's cool. Okay. So there we go. That should be good. All right, so this should be slightly dry, maybe not completely dry. Dry enough to flip over. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these on the back, and that's going to hold everything in place, which is nice. Oh, standby. If you want to make them pretty, you can cover them in washi tape. You most certainly do not have to do this, but if you want them to be kind of invisible, or look like they're a little bit more a part of the project, covering them in washi tape is the easiest thing to do. So it doesn't need to be super neat, except for those sides that you're going to see. So just, you know, a simple fold over kind of situation works well. You don't have to take a whole lot of time to make these look perfect. All right, so just a little, now it's just a little block like so. And then it doesn't matter which side these ends go on, because you're never going to see them. All right. Just hold that in place for a second. Hey, guess what? We're going to use another binder clip. Yeah, it does look like a stick of bubble gum, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to do the other one first. You know, if you really wanted to, you could kind of fold over your edges and whatever, but you don't need to do. It's all going to be hidden. All right. And then this one is, again, just getting some on there. All right, I'm gonna let those sit for just a moment. I'll put some lids on things so that they don't dry out. When you're in the middle of a project like this, it's really easy to leave your glue out, and then all of a sudden it gets stuck or gummy, or the opening gets jammed up, and that's a mess. So I do try to remember good etiquette with my glue to make sure that it stays in place. Okay. So I'm going to take this guy here, actually. So this also comes in handy if you've got some thin acrylic blocks. I did just like slide that off the edge of my table. I'm going to sandwich this in some acrylic blocks. And I think I have another. I have lots of these. but it's good if you can give it even pressure, and if you can keep your clips from going directly onto the material so that way they don't get any Mars or anything on them. That works out really well. So here's our little piece here. I'll show you one more time what that looks like before we set it down. So there you go. It's all good to go in there. And because it takes a little bit of time for this glue to dry, you can, you know, mess with things just a little bit to get them in just the right placement if you need to. So that's always a good thing. All right, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and clip those up and set that off to the side. Okay, now what? All right, now we're going to go back to this guy. This should be dry now. Nice and dry. Okay. And we can work on getting our tool in place. And we've got this little heart back here as well. All right, so let's pop this heart in place. This heart's going to go about medium. You can take this guy here, even though he's kind of all bound up right now, but kind of idealize like where you want to put him. So he's going to go kind of right here. All right. And so this heart can come up about there. So I know as you're watching this, you're probably thinking like, how do I figure this out to begin with? Well, let me tell you. I dry fit everything first. So I take all these pieces and I lay them on top of each other and I put them on the on whatever substrate they're going to go on. So in this case, the tag, and I decide like how I like it laid out. Even with the this, I may not even put the tool in until the end because sometimes laying it out just doesn't work when you've got this big fluffy stuff in the center here, right? But I lay everything else out. And then I take a picture of it. Once I have it the way I like it, I take a picture of it with just my cell phone. And as I am, and then I can wipe it all off and then I can start building it up. I use the reference from the phone to make sure that I'm getting everything back in place and that I remember kind of what order it is in and how they're all overlaid on top of each other and stuff. So that's it. It's actually kind of easier to do it that way because then you don't have to rely on your memory for how you liked it laid out ahead of time. You can take a couple of days to put it together. If something needs to dry, it can sit and dry and wait and that kind of thing. So that's my little trick. All right, so with this tool, let's check this out. This is the grit paste that we put on here with the heart stencil from scrapbook.com, and it turned out gorgeous. This turned out a lighter pink than my original one. I think I used a different color spray, but either way, doesn't matter. It's going to look great. Tool is a little difficult to work with because it has all these holes in it, right? So how am I going to stick this down? It's best to use, I go back and forth. Like the On Point glue works well, but it takes forever to dry compared to the Tombow. Because we're going to be putting other things on top and around it, I'm okay with using the Tombow for this. So you just need to kind of zhuzh it however you want. And if you don't like the way that something is laying, you can always snip it. Like I don't like this little piece here, so I'm just going to cut that off. You can cut it into 2 pieces and kind of work it around however you want. It doesn't really matter. You do what you want to do. All right, but then remember that you're going to put something on top of it, so you can always kind of use that to hold it down in place. All right, so right here is, this piece is going to go right in here. Let's see how we are on dry. Yeah, we're dry enough that we can actually put this down. I got a little extra glue on my vellum. So just wanted to clean that off. All right. So this is not completely dry, but it's dry enough. And that's going to go right there. So we can go ahead and glue that down. It is going off the edge. So keep that in mind, that you don't want glue on the back of things that are going to go flying off the edge. That works. There we go. All right, and now that I have this down again on the board, I'm going to go ahead and put a clip on it. Okay, so again, we are back to our tool here. And I think maybe just something like that. So there's really not a lot of leeway where I can put glue to hold this down. A lot of other things are going to keep it held down. So I'm just going to put a little dollop of glue right here. And just kind of press into that a little bit. This is where it can get messy, so you have to remember that that's where you put the glue. All right, I'm just going to let it sit there for a moment. All right. Okay. So while that's sitting for a moment, we're going to check the status of our piece here. All right, so fingers crossed that this is dry enough to work with. It looks like it might be. Yes, yes it is. Okay. So I need to get an eyelet in here, which I totally forgot about, but I have enough room. So I want to do it kind of off the side of this bottom one here. All right, so fortunately I had enough room on the back to do that. All right, we're going to pop our eyelet in here. This is a little too close, not too happy with that. So I am going to punch a second hole. I don't mind doing this because it's going to be covered. It's okay. Sometimes these mistakes do happen. So I've got a double hole here now. This eyelet is big enough that it's going to cover it. So if I go into the first hole there, see, that's much better. So yes, there's sometimes a little bit of forgiveness in what we're working on. You know, sometimes the paint underneath is not what the paint on the top is, and that's okay. I mean, they pull apart masterworks and they find out that someone painted over their entire amazing artwork, and you're like, wow, they painted over that. Yep, artists are just like us. All right. So there we go. So now I've got my eyelet on there. Those are ready to go. Okay. This can get glued down. All right. I'm going to do something kind of funky. I'm going to do a combination. I'm going to do some of the Tombow glue because it dries faster, but I'm going to do the On Point glue because it dries harder and more in place. So this is like a combination, like if you were to use like sticky squares or something like that, just to give you a stick to begin with and then to give you long-term stickiness. All right, so this is not going to stay down on its own. We've got the tool here, right? So I've got to take one of my pieces here, make sure that's nice and square. And I need to make sure that they go on both sides because otherwise it'll lift up on one side. So that's where these come in handy. I tried to find larger binder clips than these. They don't make them. Could not find larger binder clips than these. These are like 2-inch clips. All right. So there we go. In place. We're making headway, guys. Okay, so everything is basically down at this point. I've got this little heart here that I am going to just place in the back. So like right here. There. There we go. That is the majority of the work done. Okay, so let me clean up a little bit on here. We're done with our Crop-A-Dile. We might still need this. Done with this guy. Done with those. Okay, so we got gems. Lots of gems we need to put on here. And our other 2 pieces. So our hard pieces that still need to go on. Let's get those in place. All right, so I've got, these kind of remind me of the way I like to place sequins. So I've got a large one here. Normally, you know, I would put maybe a little one with that. That's what I'm going to do with the some of the rhinestones. But large and small placed together work really nice. And then down here in the corner, I've got this other metal one here that I'm going to put down in the corner. All right, these guys go on best with something like an on-point glue. Or you can use a like a super permanent glue, like a super glue, or other super permanent dries hard kind of craft glue. All right, so there are our metal bits, and this one is already like, it ain't moving. Yay! Now it's time to sequence this bad boy up. I went crazy with the gem mix on here. I love all of the gems that are in this gem mix. Okay, so I'm going to use my little jewel picker. We're going to start with the circle because this is the coolest thing. So I'm going to put some on-point glue all the way around the edge of this. It's got really good viscosity, so it's not going to, I know, big word, right? It's not going to spread out, and it's not going to go down into the hole. Right? You want to get even closer to that? Let's get closer. Right. So here we go. So this is totally random, the way that I'm putting these down. And I like to get some of the small ones in place, actually. And it's okay to push them in and let them get covered with some of the glue, because you'll never notice it after it's done. Switch to the other side. My only like real tenet in putting this together is that I didn't want 2 of the same color or size to be next to each other. So I wanted it to really look very eclectic. The only thing that I find frustrating about these mixes is that a lot of times that they like to flip over. So sometimes it's difficult to see all the different colors you have available. So this is just like a fun little thing to get lost in, putting all these rhinestones around the edge here. Come on. It doesn't want to pick up. There. So now I've got this beautiful rhinestone edge. Gorgeous. All right. Rhinestones can go anywhere else on this project, and I encourage it. So, you know, putting together some large and small ones. Even the ones in this mix that are blue, I think look really nice on the project. It gives it just a little bit of visual interest. Yeah, the ring of gems, I was like, that was one of my favorite things that I put together. I thought, oh, that looks so awesome. So let's add in like one by itself down here. That'll kind of end this little triangle of gems. So as I'm doing my gems, I'm only putting down the glue as I'm working on a specific grouping. That way I don't forget where I've put my glue. So let's do a grouping over here. So that's going to finish off this guy. All of my gems keep flipping upside down. I can't get them to go right side up. The large ones especially, which are the ones that I'm trying to look for right now. Oh, there's one. All right, so again, you can do as much or as little as you like. You can also put gems on the tool. So let me show you that. Okay, so that's dry enough. It still needs some more drying time. This is still very much like I would not put it up. It's not dry enough. I would let it just lay here for, you know, a few hours just to give it all a good dry time. So the tool itself, you can put the rhinestones on. You just need to be really careful about it and not run into them after you've done it, because they're very delicate on here until they dry. So just put a couple little drops at a time. Don't go crazy with it, because again, you want to be able to find those drops again after you've made them. And you're just going to drop them right onto it and make sure that they make some contact. All right, see if you play with it too much, it wants to like kind of jump around a little bit, and we don't want it to do that. So there you go. Like this is a nice flat area here with the tools, so this is a really great place to put some for sure. All right, and I got one more little one right here. All right, and then you can also put them, all right, so we've got tool here. Sorry about that, I didn't realize I was off screen. So we got 3 there. And then of course you can put them around your grommet too, your eyelet. Just in the same way that we put them around the circle, around the top. So again, you can do just a few, you can go around the whole thing. All sorts of great places to put your rhinestones. So this is really just your finishing touches. You can wait until everything is super dry before you tackle the rhinestone aspect of it. Of course, those can be added in at any time. If you don't have rhinestones, obviously sequins work well. Other little embellishments that you might have. Anything works great with this little project. So, as I'm finishing this up, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys tackle it, because as you can see, breaking it out into the 2 parts, like creating the pieces first and then doing the assembly, works really well. If you decide to tackle a project on your own that has different shapes, or you're using a different size tag or whatever, don't forget my little tip to take a picture of everything, like dry fit it all together, like how you think it would lay out well, and then take a picture of it, and then go ahead and glue everything down together. And that will really save you a ton of heartache of trying to pull something up if you don't like the way that it looks, because you'll have already tried it dry. You'll know if it works or not. And then glue it down, and just have patience. Doing something like this live with you guys is sometimes difficult because dry time, right? On your own, take the time to let it dry. If it's like all sliding all over the place, take some time and just let it dry. Come back to it, 30 minutes, an hour, a day later, and then put it together. I know that, like, when I started adding these gems in, that was something that was like the last thing that I did, but that was after everything was already dry. So you definitely can take this in stages as you have time, as it chooses to dry. If you're patient with it, it's something that is going to be nice and solidly built. You're going to be happy with it. And it's going to be something that is going to adorn your walls or decor in your home for however long you want to have it, right? The last thing that I would say is that if you want to seal it, in this particular project, the only thing that really would maybe need to be sealed would be the Pollock background, right? So what I would have done if I wanted to seal that piece is I would have put it on my tag and then sealed it, and then progressed with putting the rest of the pieces on here. If it has more painted pieces on it throughout, then you may want to seal the whole thing. You want to use either a gloss or a matte, whatever you prefer, the way the finish looks, like just a spray varnish, something like that, that will allow it to be protected a little bit from water, especially if you've got like watercolory finishes on there. But otherwise, like something like this doesn't necessarily have to be sealed. All right, it's just like any other piece of art. You know, you don't want to get it wet. You don't want to have it in a humid environment if you can help it. You just want to take care of it. If you need to dust it, just do a little light dusting. Don't do any wet dusting on it. And yeah, it'll be beautiful and you're going to love it. So there you go. I'm going to finish up all of my gems. I mean, look at all the gems that are on this one. They are all over the place and they're absolutely gorgeous. And that really does add a lot to the project when you have all those gems on there. So I'm so glad you guys enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see what some of you have created. So when you do, don't forget to tag me at Nicole Watt Creates. I want to see them. I can't wait to hear what you guys have put together. Anne is already enticing me. She said she's using snowflakes and swirls. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it. So enjoy the process. This is a great little project if you're looking to step away from the family for the holidays and you just need some you time. This is something that you can dive into and really enjoy. So I'm glad you guys joined me today, and I will be back in the new year with you guys for some more crafting. We're going to be diving into more hearts in January, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So I will see you in the new year. Until then, Happy New Year. I hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday, and I'll see you in January. Happy crafting.